Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about making your own silk screens, which you could then print with and transfer onto your ceramic ware. This is an silk screen that I made with the Easy Screen Print silk screens that they sell, and this is a porcelain pot that has decals transferred to it. I'm going to show you how to do that today. So to make your own silk screen, what you're going to need is you're going to need to buy some kind of light sensitive screens. The ones I have are from easyscreenprint.com. So they have light sensitive screens that look like this. They're about this color, of course, without the printing on them. They're in a photosensitive bag, such as this. Make sure you don't open that bag and expose it to light. You're also going to need some kind of plastic or glass that doesn't block UV light. You'll need a transparency that's not printed on, and you'll need your own design. So the first thing that I usually start out with is a drawing. So this is an example of a drawing that I did in a sketchbook, and what I want to do is I want to either scan or photograph this drawing and make it digital. After you make your drawing digital, you want to print it out on a piece of acetate or a transparency. That's very important. You can't use your original drawing directly. You need to have it printed on a transparent sheet. What's going to happen is the black ink is going to block out the sun from touching the photosensitive screen, and basically when light touches this photosensitive screen, it like fixes it. So where light doesn't touch, rinses off later. Okay? If that's confusing, hopefully it'll make more sense. So after you've transferred your drawing to a transparency, I usually take a piece of wood, or in this case cardboard, and then take the bag that the screens come in, because it blocks light, and put that down. Okay? The next thing you're going to do in a very dark room is you're going to take the photosensitive screen. You're going to place that on top, okay? And then you're going to take your drawing that you had, or a design that you had transferred onto the transparency, and place that on top. Okay? Make sure this is all done in a very dark room. Then you're going to take the glass or plexiglass that does not block UV light. It's very important. And you're going to place that on top of everything to press it down. Okay? I could tape this. Remember, this is, I'm showing you guys an example. These have already all been printed on. And I'm showing you how you would do it. Just gonna put this here to hold this down a little bit. Okay, you're gonna take this. It needs to be transparent so sun can get through, and you're gonna hold that. Okay, then you're gonna take this outside and expose it to the sun for about 1 minute, direct sunlight. The next thing you want to do is expose your screen to direct sunlight for 1 minute. You should check, in case you use different brands, how long that will be. What's going to happen is where you printed, that area is going to block the sun from touching the screen. So when you take the screen inside, when you rinse it underwater, basically everything that you have drawn here is going to rinse off of the screen. After you're back inside in low light conditions, you can take everything apart, and you're going to rinse off your screen. You'll notice that the manufacturer gives you lots of little sample pieces, so you should definitely test out your exposure time first. So I'm going to put everything aside and then take this to the sink. Next step is to take your screen to the sink and to rinse off the Remember, I am demonstrating, not creating a new one from scratch. What's gonna happen is after you rinse it, you should be able to see light through your screen. And you wanna let it rest for a little bit. I usually put it back out into the sun for another minute to fix the emulsion, and then you can use it after that. After you've got your silkscreen cleaned off, fixed by the sun and dried, now you're ready to print it. You can print directly on clay, or you can make your own decals using paper. There's lots of expensive papers out there, such as this Japanese this kind of like watercolor paper. You know, I find this to be kind of a waste. The best thing I've found is tissue paper. So cheap tissue paper, just from like what you would use to put in a gift bag at a drugstore. The table here is a little wet, so it's kind of ruining this. So make sure you're working on a clean surface, and I'll show you how you could print directly onto a piece of tissue paper. So the tissue paper is going to give you the kind of decal that you may be familiar with commercial decals, such as these scraps of commercial decals. So these are typically called Underglaze decals, and you buy them, you put them face down on your work, and then you transfer the design. Here's a really large one of just stripes. Okay, so before you print, you're going to want to prepare the medium for printing. So Mako sells a silkscreen medium AC-310. You can add this to any underglaze that's too liquid. If you do that, it kind of bulks it up. I would recommend adding mason stain as well if you're going to use the silkscreen medium. You can also just directly use underglaze. I'm going to show you the easiest way, which is doing nothing. I'm not going to add any mason stain or silkscreen medium to this underglaze. Sometimes if you let underglaze sit around with the lid off, it can be kind of gelled and be thick enough to use without adding any silkscreen medium to it. So what you want to do is make sure that you have the side down that you want to print. These can print either way. A lot of silk screens have a smooth and a rough side. This does not. So I'm going to place this down, and I'm going to tape down the sides. Tissue paper is very weak. If you don't use painter's tape, you probably will tear when you're coming off. I think I'm going to actually just do the top. Try to get the air out from between the two. And I'm going to take my flexible rib and I'm going to kind of load it up with underglaze, and then I'm going to pick a section. I'm going to start over here and I'm going to pull this down. As I pull it down, it pushes the underglaze through the silkscreen and it prints. Let's see, get closer here. So let's see if this worked. See? Now I have a little section printed. I could also print the whole thing. So next I'm going to show you how you could apply these to your work. Okay, now we're ready to apply the Underglaze decals. They're very versatile. You can apply them onto greenware or bisque, and also have some here I'm gonna use because they're much longer. So all you need to apply your Underglaze decals, whether you purchased them or printed them yourself from the silkscreen, is water, a sponge or a squeegee, and a piece to attach it to. Again, I could apply these directly to a slab. I could also silkscreen. This one is particularly interesting to me because it's white underglaze. I find it very difficult to find white silk screens, so that's pretty exciting to me. What I'm going to do is I'll put some underglaze colors down and then apply some of the decals directly on top of them. So what's really wonderful about printing your own decals is that you can decide what color it's gonna, they will be. So what I'm gonna do here is I think I'm going to, just for fun, section out a couple of areas and paint underglaze on them to change the background before I apply decals. Let's do this first. A little bit black. So I will need a dark background like this in order to see the white decals here that I printed before. And this is much lighter, but I thought it would be a little more interesting than the white stoneware as a background. Just a little something different. All right, so what I'm going to do now is show you how you can apply these. So first of all, you want to take the decal and decide where you want it to be applied to. I think this might be interesting if it's like that, in line with these two sections of color. So you want to place it where you want it, decide, and then you want to take a sponge that's damp, and you want to hold the decal down and just lightly dampen it with the sponge. The decal, a lot like a temporary tattoo, should be facing down, and like a temporary tattoo, it only has one use in it. After you transferred it, you can't reuse it. So here it's a little tricky, always around curved or sharp edges, so you're gonna have to do your best with that. And of course, experiment, being a little bit irreverent here. So I've applied enough water to the decal sticking. Now what I'm gonna do is get something like to burnish it a bit with. I have a bottle here. Could also use a rib would work, or a spoon. And what the burnishing, I'll use this. What the burnishing is going to do is it's going to ensure that the design stays on the pot and not on the paper. These are drying out extra fast because they're on bisque. If you're using greenware, it's going to require much less moisture. If I press this like I'm doing now, when it's too wet, it'll smear. Okay. Just gonna wet it a little bit more. So when you're ready, you're gonna take this and peel it up a little bit. And if you notice that your design is staying on the paper, cover it back up and compress more. By the way, I could still use the bottom part of this. So part of that has been transferred. Whoops. So this video is not being edited, so if you get smudges on your pot and it's bisque, you might be able to get them off. I'm not being the best, most careful person here today. So there's how you would transfer those. I'm gonna go ahead and do some of these guys too. This one I'll have a little overlap between the yellow and the raw clay color. So again, to review, to transfer these, I'm wetting the decal, saturating it, and because this is bisque, I'm wetting it a lot. Then I'm going to compress it. But be careful again, I'm kind of smudging it in some spots. Let it dry a little bit before you compress too much. And remember to check before you just rip this off. If it looks good, you can pull it off all the way. Let's see if these white ones work. Sometime you might have to add Zirco packs or tin or something to get them to really show up, the white, especially if you dilute it with the silkscreen medium. The reason I like printing with white decals is because you cannot find them commercially, number one. Number two, it kind of looks like chalkboard. It's just kind of rare to see unless you're using Sgraffito to see light on dark. These printing techniques. Okay, while that's drying, I can apply some of these guys. Kind of going collage style. A lot of overlap. ever so well. I went a little too fast. Let's see this one. It's pretty exciting. All right, well, that was a lot, so we can stop there, but know that you can totally customize your pieces and have an interesting thing, and you can print your own in any color. And I hope that was fun for you guys. Try it out, and if this was confusing, just let me know. Have a good one.